Hello, everybody. Welcome to Political Football. My name is Dave. I'm here with Scott and Clev. We're part of the Matty Ice Media Network. You can see my name here. It's a celebration, and that is because we are celebrating a few things today. First, we're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Michigan's national championship.
Come on,
which is amazing. The second thing we're celebrating is the Lions getting their first number 1 overall seed ever, and the bye and the NFC playoffs.
More important than that.
And even more importantly, we're celebrating Cleve still being old as shit. Cleve, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, man. Thanks, brothers. Thanks. Appreciate it.
What are you, 27, 28, 26? What do you got going on?
Try reversing 15.
Reversing 15.
Yeah, I just turned 51. 51.
Oh.
I'm getting AARP stuff in the mail now. Like, it's coming. Stuff is coming through. I'll soon have a pancake dinner at the old YMCA down there.
One of my favorite things about getting older, now that I'm close to being this old yet, Scott maybe,
54,
is that I can't wait till I'm old enough to where I can just pretend to be confused about things, like taking candy into movies. I could just be like, "Oh, I didn't know." As I'm walking with like all my Milk Duds and stuff. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, that's a perspective.
My granddad used to have pocket candy when I was a kid. It's not good. The peppermint, the stripes gone from it.
Oh, like Kevin Hart says, just hand out raw candy.
At least you get a Werther's, bro.
Okay, so yeah, happy 51st birthday to Cleve, who, while he is not the oldest person on the show, he is the grandfather on the show, so that makes him the oldest.
He is the man. We'll put it that way.
Yes. He's certainly in the best shape. So
a low bar.
If you see what I'm eating right now, it's actually not bad. It's scalloped potatoes. I just had a taste for scalloped potatoes for some reason. I'm old.
So we got snow down here, like for this region, legitimate snow. And Monday night, we were snowed in. I could have left, but they don't really treat the snow here in the DMV correctly. So we were snowed in. And the only things I had to make to eat were things that like took either a long time, like you actually chop things up or prepare it and all that. Or I had like 1 can of Pillsbury biscuits. So guess what I had for dinner Monday night?
Wow.
Biscuits, baby.
Just 8 biscuits.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. That's under the level of a Popeye's biscuit, which is just flaky. I mean, you gotta have something to chase that with, or you're gonna choke out.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it as a dinner. It no. Not only is it not healthy, it really was missing like everything else. But hey, it was all right.
You made
and
it
of course we were still celebrating the Lions' big win there, so we were pretty excited there.
That was crazy. That was a crazy game.
It was. So we're going to get to that here shortly. In fact, this week we're going to discuss the Week 18 games that mattered. It wasn't that many of them. Then we're going to look forward to the upcoming playoffs, and I do have some notes here about some of the recent firings. Because Cleve, I'm sure you have maybe similar thoughts as I do about that. So I have some notes for that coming up. We discuss the Patriots as well. But first thing first, Cleve, I want you to check out this stat line from Lamar Jackson this past weekend, okay? Remember, Josh Allen didn't play. Lamar goes 25 of 34 for 251 yards and 3 touchdowns, 5 carries, 24 yards, 2 more touchdowns, MVP type stuff.
It's pretty much locked up.
Yeah, except that wasn't Lamar's line. That was Bryce Young.
I knew there was a catch.
Bryce Young has turned the corner. I mean, he really has.
I mean, in all fairness, and I wasn't expecting that. That's a good layup, Dave. I kind of take back what I said about him not being an NFL quarterback, because the kid, whatever happened in the benching and all that went around down there, he had a come to Jesus moment, and like he's playing good ball. Like he's out there just not caring. Like, two high safeties, I'm throwing.
There's a TikTok I made
too. Like Canales deserves a lot of credit for how he's handled this.
He does.
And maybe this is giving him credit and then determining the outcome kind of a thing. Like it worked, so he gets credit. Does that make sense? Sometimes I fall into that trap. That it worked, so something must have been good there. I mean, he turned around Baker. He has now turned around Bryce Young. Bryce Young was pretty much left for dead as recently as 6-7 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, in that range.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. I made a TikTok of a conversation that Scott and I had where I said I would not trade a 12th round pick in the XFL draft for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
I think as a general kind of concept in and around NFL stuff is we all want to make declarative statements way too soon on some players. Some guys you can't. Like I think Will Levis is probably I'm gonna eat these words in the future. I'm not sure Will Levis is going to be able to redeem his career, right? I'm not sure he's that guy. But burying a dude like Bryce Young, who got picked first overall because he was a very cerebral player, was probably a little too soon. But he looked horrible in the early parts of this year and obviously all last year. But I think Canales deserves a ton of credit there, and I mean he has definitely turned the corner and looks like he's playing at a pretty high level. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought he was destined for a career as a backup for the Arlington Renegades. So I'm really having to eat my words. Now, in the offseason, Scott, we did a show, a fantasy show with drafting an underdog, and you said that you thought Bryce Young had value going as late as he was towards the end of drafts. I remember saying to Clev when we did the preview for the NFC South that while Bryce Young was horrible as a rookie, all the horrible rookies who bounced back to be great quarterbacks were all drafted in the top 7, the majority first overall, like he was.
Yeah.
So I had left the door open even after last year for improvement, but the start of this year was so atrocious.
Yeah.
Like that's what made me close it. The fact that he, got benched for Andy Dalton, and then Andy Dalton gets that car accident, and then Bryce Young comes back in, and he's a completely different player. Yeah, I'm completely with you. It's to me, Dave Canales deserves a ton of credit.
Yeah, he really does. It's
you only get but so many chances. Yeah, you only get but so many chances, and I think when unfortunately it happened in a car accident, he had another chance to get in there and show what he can do. And, he might have bought himself a couple of years and maybe he is a backup down the line, but he did play enough to show that. I think they said, and I might be wrong, they said that we think we got our guy.
Yeah.
I think that's what they said.
Yeah, so, he deserves the right to get the full starter treatment last year through the offseason, sign free agents to build around him for sure. He's definitely done enough to deserve that. Now, this game was Panthers 44, Falcons 38. The Falcons lost control of the NFC South last week by losing, and then in a must-win spot, losing overtime at home to the Panthers. And this was always the nightmare scenario. This is the scenario that I was so afraid of when they screwed up the draft. And the reason they screwed up the draft is they had already signed Cousins, right? So the draft came second. That's why the draft was a screw up. They'd already committed to Cousins at that point. By middling the quarterback situation and sinking so much capital into that position, they left themselves flat at other positions, fully exposed, and as a middling 500 team in a year where their division should have been wide open, and instead they finished 2 games behind Todd Bowles.
Yeah, but does it really matter? Does it really matter at all? Nothing matters until you figure out the quarterback position. I would argue that, Atlanta could have made the playoffs this year, but they are dead in the water in the playoffs. I would rather, if I'm a Falcons fan or even part of whatever they've got going on, I would rather have taken another shot at the quarterback position, knowing that Cousins wasn't going to be a long-term. It's not like he's a long-term solution. So
but they paid him like he was long-term.
They said a 4-year, $180 million contract.
I know, but we have to remember that $180 million is meaningless money to an NFL owner. It just doesn't matter. It does not matter. It just doesn't.
But
So
the money against the cap matters. I know
it does.
the money doesn't matter, but here's the thing: like, yes, in hindsight, they should never have signed Cousins. Just planned to draft Penix and spent that money on other people. That
Yes.
is the correct thing they should have done. We
It-
all agree there. Penix is
That's-
better than Cousins. Yes. But because they had to pick an order to do things, once they signed Cousins, they absolutely should have pushed with Cousins for this year. The Bucks position should be theirs. They should be a 3 seed this year, which the Lions were last year, and the Lions almost went to the Super Bowl as a 3 seed last
Is
year.
it possible
three
they
seed
looked
goes a
ahead,
lot.
though? I mean, maybe they were a forward-looking group and saw what's coming into this draft, knowing that it is just there is very little to nothing in this draft for quarterbacks. They're just
Yes, but they signed Cousins to a 4-year deal.
I know,
They could have
I know.
got him after 2 years.
Yeah.
So they should have been cared about the draft this year. They should be like, well, we could just, after Cousins, we'll trade up for Archer Manning or something,
but
or Nico Yamalieva or somebody
I know,
else.
but that's part of the flawed thinking is that you can automatically trade up for a guy or that you'll be in position for that. Never happens.
No, the flawed thinking is passing up on a year when your division is so weak that
Wide
you should be able
open,
to
yeah.
win it easily. And instead, you finish
Yeah.
2 games behind Todd Bowles and finish behind the Bucks for the 4th straight year. The Falcons hit on Bijan Robinson and Drake London and AJ Terrell, not on Kyle Pitts, unfortunately. But they've got some good draft picks in there. They have a really good offensive line.
Yeah.
Right. The Falcons have no business in 2024 finishing 2 games behind Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Todd Bowles with the way they drafted. The only reason they're there is because they sink way too much into the quarterback position. The Bucks are giving Baker like $40 million a year and then drafted other positions. The Bucks are way better. You know, you don't have that many opportunities to actually win your division, host the playoff game. And when they come along, you can't turn them down or think, oh, we'll solve the quarterback position and get it later down the road. Right? Unfortunately, look at the Jets. The Jets thought they solved the quarterback position this year. They thought they got it right. Like, this was it for the Falcons. They blew it this year, and they're never to get this opportunity back.
They'll have the opportunity next year. Is New Orleans a problem next year? Or is Carolina a problem
Nope.
next year? No. So
Nope.
it's them and Tampa again.
But Carolina will be better next year than they were this year. They already lost to Carolina at home in a must-win spot this year.
Yeah.
So, like, Carolina will be better next year. The
Yeah.
Saints, almost by default, will be better next year.
But
Right?
they're still going to stink, though.
Yes, but the division
As you,
will get
Dave, as
harder
you always
next year.
say, they're one of those teams that they're not for real. Like they don't, they do this every year. The last 4 since this show's been in existence, they've done
Yes. Yes. And, you know, and it's an overarching, like, their specific thing was paying Cousins and drafting Penix. But
Yeah.
really, this is what they always do. They hire Arthur Smith, who doesn't use these first-round picks that they drafted. Right?
At
I mean,
all.
they
At
have
all.
been inefficient beyond inefficient. And what they did at the quarterback position was, I mean, like, as crazy
Criminal.
throwing away money as like it's nuts. But in the end, if in 2 years Penix is playing really good football, nobody's going to give a shit that they paid Cousins $100 million for 1 year of
That's
nothing.
true.
And that's all I'm trying to say is that you have to take shots they might have to take a shot at the quarterback position again in 3 years, but you got to keep doing it until you hit a quarterback. You just do, or you're dead anyway.
Yeah.
Correct. But once they signed Cousins, they had to assume they hit it with Cousins. Right? Like, that's the thing. That's the mistake that they made.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they should have just never signed Cousins and signed whoever else instead. But once they did, they had to go in with that. The alternative is to be middling, which is exactly what happened.
In 1 year, though, we're overreacting to one outcome.
Okay. Last year, the Lions won a really crappy division.
Yeah.
They ran over the division, got the number 3 seed, almost made it to the Super Bowl. They were winning half of the NFC title game. Let's say they weren't sold on Jared Goff, and instead of Jahmyr Gibbs, they took Will Levis or some quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Goff didn't work out and Levis ended up being good this year or whatever, blowing last year would have been a bad idea. Supporting Goff was the way to go. The Falcons should have done that position this year. They should have been the dominant team in a crappy division, a division that will be much better next year. The Lions won 15 games this year and almost were the 5 seed. The Vikings won 14 and are the 5 seed. Yeah. The Falcons, Bucks, Panthers could be this in 2 years' time. So congratulations. You have Penix. Now it's a lot harder.
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly made it a little bit harder, but they have their quarterback.
But this is an organizational issue. They are never going to get this right. They will always be a middling franchise because they are middling. Like even their owner who owns Home Depot supports the candidate who wants to forcibly deport all the immigrant labor. And it's like, bro, you own a Home Depot. You know what I mean? Like, what are you thinking? Like this organization will always be 500. They are the 90s Lions. They will have great players and finish 500 because they have no idea what they're actually doing.
See, to me, I disagree. I think it was as forward-thinking a move as you could possibly make in the face of what was going to be a ton of criticism. What if Kirk Cousins failed? What's the backup plan? Who is it? What is it? Like, if they don't have Penix on the roster right now and Cousins physically can't perform, what do they have?
Yeah.
You've wasted another year with Bijan.
God forbid. If Cousins was bad, they might have missed the playoffs. Oh, shit. Like they'd be in the same position. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Scott, they've done this. We've been doing this show now since 2020.
Yeah.
And they've done this we've had this conversation. Dave has ranted this every year since I could go back to tape.
This is institutional with them, and it drives me crazy. I mean, if we just look at what they could have done to help Kirk Cousins in this draft when they took Penix, they could have taken Odunze, they could have taken Brock Bowers, they could have taken any defensive player on the board. They were all there, right? Does Cousins plus Bowers get them in the playoffs?
Probably not.
Probably not, but maybe. And if Cousins had worked out and they added Bowers or Odunze, right? Rephrase it. If Malik Neighbors was on the board at 8 and they took Michael Penix to make Malik Neighbors, Scott, you would have lost your mind.
No, because I think it's so important to figure out quarterback that it's. Do you think the Giants right now are in a good position because they have Neighbors and no quarterback?
No, but the Giants are suffering 6 years on from horrible drafting decisions, which the Falcons are also probably going to be suffering from, except it's horrible money allocation, which won't take 6 years. It'll take 2.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, they're going to suffer next year's roster. Next year's roster is going to suffer from cap implications from Cousins. It just is. But all I'm saying,
and then in 2 years, when Arch Manning's on the Saints like Grandpa, and Bryce Young is fully hitting his stride, and Baker Mayfield is still good for the Bucks, the Falcons will be twice as good as this year, and they're going to win 9 games and miss the playoffs.
We'll see.
This was their chance in that crap division.
Yeah, but okay, I just don't think it matters whether they make the playoffs this year in a one-off. It just doesn't matter. You know,
Clev, do you wish the Jets had made the playoffs this year in a one-off? I like, because it's the NFL. It's not the NBA. We're like, oh, we made it as the 8th seed. Oh, we got destroyed in the second round by the Celtics. Like in the NFL, once you're in, especially if you're out the 7th seed, if you host a playoff game in the first round, you have a chance. Like you really have a chance at that point. So if you have a chance to win your division and host a playoff game, like I really don't think in the NFL you could turn that down. You have a legitimate shot at a Super Bowl then. It might even be 10%.
The Falcons would have no shot at a Super Bowl if they made the playoffs this year. They just don't.
So if they're the 3 seed hosting the Commanders.
I don't know if they would be the 3 seed, but I think they'd have been the 4.
Well, flip them with the Bucks. So they're the 3 seed because they do what the Bucks did. So the 3 seed, they host the Commanders and they go to Philly. You think they're just dead in both of those?
I think they're dead in week 2 and possibly in week. Yeah, I do. If it's Cousins playing quarterback, yes, I do.
They're the 3 seed.
Yep.
The Packers beat the Eagles. So now the Falcons host the Rams in round 2.
Dead.
And the Lions play the Packers. The Packers are used to playing the Lions. Packers beat the Lions. Falcons beat the Rams at home. Now the Falcons host the Packers right to go to the playoffs. This might be a 5% scenario, but it's a 0% scenario right now because they punted it for hope in the future.
In a must-win game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know they punted, but nothing else matters around building a roster until you figure out quarterback. It just doesn't. And the faster you do it, believe it or not, I know this sounds a little nuts, but the faster you can eliminate guys from being like the guy, the quarterback, it's better.
Yes.
You want guys to bust in 2. You don't want to stick for 4 or 5 years with a quarterback. You want to know in 2 years that he ain't
Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, insert whatever name you want to insert.
New York Giants.
Yeah. So, but you want to know. So I think they'll know. I mean, I think you know pretty quick whether some quarterbacks are going to work or they're not going to work. But you got to take shots at that position in the NFL. Or I mean, just go through the list of teams that are in the playoffs and name their quarterbacks. Just do it. Who are the quarterbacks in the NFC?
In the NFC?
Yeah.
It'd be Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, and Jordan Love.
Yeah. Yeah. Now go over to the other side.
Guy.
They're all first round. They're all like top 10 picks except for Hurts. Many were first overall. Goff was first overall. Baker was first overall. Yep. Daniels was second. Love was late first round.
Mm-hmm.
They're all first round picks except for Hurts.
Yeah.
Who would have been.
But they're all like legit, absolutely established. They're guys. I mean, they're quarterbacks for their teams.
Yes.
There's no doubts. There's no questions.
Yeah.
And until you figure that out, I just think you're middling anyway.
Yeah. Jake asked, Broncos did a good job. Bo Nix, what was your grade on that pick at the time? I still don't think that was a very good draft pick. So I'm going to end up being wrong about Bo Nix as a professional. He's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I just really don't see 25-year-old quarterbacks having a ceiling when they come into the league. And I don't think that you can be in a division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes and be like, you know what we're going to go do? We're going to go take a 25-year-old and like, because if Bo Nix was him, he comes out at 21, right? There are some exceptions like Jaden Daniels, who's older as well, but the difference there is pretty obvious, right? Like most of them come out pretty young if they're going to be that good. So I don't think that Bo Nix was the right pick for the Broncos, and I think the Broncos will be looking up at the Chiefs and the Chargers by and large for all of Bo Nix's career.
We'll see. I mean, he's got him in the playoffs in year 1. It's a pretty impressive year.
Which is impressive for them, but they're the 7th seed and they're about to lose by 28 and be out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like next
like
are we really going to pick the Broncos to finish ahead of the Chiefs or Chargers next year?
Probably not, but I mean, at the point in which they were picking, who are you going to take? Who are you? I mean, what's your plan? What's the plan at quarterback?
So again, I think if you're in a position like that where you can't go one of the top quarterbacks, you're better off signing a on the rebound guy and drafting somebody to help that person out, or trading down from there and drafting many somebodies, right? Again, what Sam Darnold did with the Vikings is going to make it makes a lot of these picks look pretty bad.
Yeah.
All these like desperation picks. And honestly, if you were to tell me right now, the Jared Goff gets abducted by aliens and next year I have to take Shedeur Sanders or Daniel Jones, just give me dimes. Give me dimes. Dimes Reclamation Project. And we'll do something else like with the draft picks. I don't want, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, well, Lions were picking 32nd. I would take Shedeur at 32, but assuming they were picking first, right?
Yeah.
Or fourth.
Yeah.
All right. Next game here. Bills Bills 16, Patriots 23. The Patriots won this game and ended up with the 4th overall pick because of the 1st overall pick. Absolute disaster for them. The horrible.
It really was.
It's a disaster. Like, because they already have their quarterback. Can you imagine what they could have gotten to trade back from 1st to 4th? They just cost themselves maybe like a 1st next year.
Yeah.
For free. Because they won this game against the Bills backups.
Yeah.
I saw that as either Mayo saying "fuck you" because I know I'm out because there might have been talks already. You know what? Yeah. Let me just grenade this whole thing, and then the quarterback that was playing, he just put up his tape. He's like, "I'm going to put up some tape here." So,
yeah.
Did he ever?
Wow. The big news out of this is that after the game, as Clev started alluded to, the Patriots did fire first-year head coach Gerard Mayo. The Raiders fired Antonio Pierce after just 1 year, and the Titans fired GM Rand Carthon after 2 years. All three of these gentlemen are black. And at first, I didn't actually think too much of it. But as I started thinking deeper about it, I realized like there is kind of some nonsense here. So I just want to go through real quick with my thoughts on all three, and then I'll get your guys' thoughts. The first is Antonio Pierce. One never should have been hired. I mean, if you spent 10 seconds talking to Antonio Pierce about football, you would know that he is a head coach at a mid-level program in a flyover state at best. Like this dude is not an NFL head coach. He's like the 15th best head coach in Wyoming.
Wow. Okay.
Right. I'll give him more people. Missouri. He's the 15th best head coach in Missouri. The nation's worst state, by the way, and I stand on that. But so he gets fired for being over promoted. But the thing is, Mark Davis is over promoted. He's an absolute fail son, right? He's too poor to own an NFL team in the first place, and he has that haircut. But nothing's going to happen to him. Like, there's no consequence for him for making all these horrible decisions over and over and over and over again. So that's sort of what I'm annoyed by. Like, Mark Davis gets to make this horrible decision to hire Antonio Pierce in the first place, suffers no consequence from it. So that's what has me annoyed there. Rand Carthon was GM for 2 years. He had 2 different head coaches in Tennessee, was basically stuck with Will Levis. And the thing is, you could argue that this year they should have taken J.J. McCarthy instead of J.C. Latham to address the quarterback position. But J.C. Latham wasn't a bad pick on his face, right? So, I just, basically Rand Carthon got fired because Bo Nix and Michael Penix worked out. But those weren't great draft picks. They worked out, but they weren't like great process picks. And so like the Titans are morons, right? They're like, oh, why did you draft Bo Nix? You had the chance to like Bo Nix, and Rand Carthon would be like, well, because it would be stupid to draft Bo Nix there. Well, you're fired. You should draft the Bo Nix. The Titans are going to suck forever is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but they're stuck in that loop of we drafted Will Levis and we need to let it play out. Even with all the evidence that you have that it probably won't.
Right. They needed to let Will Levis play out for the same reason the Falcons needed to roll with Kirk Cousins, because that's how you actually hit your ceiling outcome. Right. Taking J.J. McCarthy 6th this year is middling that position. Now, Rand Carthon understands this. The Titans do not. But that's why the Titans, will never win anything. They are, in my opinion, they're a clown franchise that will never win anything. They're never going to get it right. They had the best running back in the league and a decent quarterback. They got number 1 seed 1 year, lost immediately.
So wait, are we saying that
they won't sign AJ Brown? They're done.
Are we saying that the team that doesn't take the quarterback doesn't know what they're doing, while the team that doesn't know what they're doing?
No. I'm saying that the Titans don't know, as an organization, don't know what they're doing, firing Rand Carthon for struggling this year with Will Levis, when their options were to ride or die with Levis this year. That was all they could do.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out. So now Rand Carthon should be leading the charge forward with the rest of the roster he's building. The Titans don't understand this. The Titans, not Carthon, the Titans don't know what they're doing.
Very clearly. They've struggled for a long time.
And then finally, Gerard Mayo, head coach of the Patriots, a black man employed in Boston. That city wouldn't give Willie Mays a chance. There's no way they're going to keep Jared Mayo around after failing for 1 year.
That one is, it's intriguing. I don't know how much. Albert Breer put out something today, and it's super interesting. And it's essentially about how stuck in the past that franchise is because of their own success. They had success for 20 years, likely because they had a quarterback who could figure everything out for them. And last year they swept him in while not understanding what was happening around the league, right? And this year they swept him out because they don't understand what's happening around the league. And if we want to believe what's being reported, it sounds like Mike Vrabel may already be, kind of locked in there. And it's like, okay, you just repeated that cycle over.
Yeah.
Right. You predetermined a guy and then fired that guy because you predetermined someone else. Right.
I think that I think Vrabel was always the guy, but the way Bill talked up Mayo, Kraft was like, you know what? I'll give him a shot, see how it works out. The team did not look great, obviously. And he's like, all right, I tried your guy, your would-be successor. Now I'll try my guy. The difference between Mayo and Vrabel is that Vrabel was already a coach. And he was okay with Tennessee. Like he got them to win and stuff like that. But the race thing, since Dave brought it up, I do think there's something to be said about that because Jimmy Johnson went 1-15 his first year, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
Right?
Yep.
Did he go 1-15?
Yep.
And he, he had a strategy to get some draft picks and get the whole thing going, but he was given a chance to fail. I mean, 1-15 is telling versus 4 and whatever they finished with. I think it was 12. Like whatever.
Honestly, but statistically, like the same thing. Once you're that bad,
they had the first pick going into last season.
Yeah. And again, if it wasn't a grenade move to blow up the whole thing, then he's a walking idiot on skates because, like Dave said, you can restructure everything and kind of go forward, but again, the team did not look good at all. And it kept looking worse every week. So as I mentioned in our group text, I'm like, you can't be walking past 8 Lombardis or whatever to your office and be like, shit, we used to be the toast of the town, as Scott said. Now we're like, we ain't shit around here, Yeah. And Kraft doesn't like it. I mean, he's the owner of a team and I get it. But I think Vrabel, if he's in line, he was always the guy that Kraft wanted. But
I think you're right, Clev. I think you're spot on. I think if we were to go back to last year, I don't think the timeline. When did Vrabel get fired? Does anybody know? Like, I don't know that Vrabel was available for their job last year.
Vrabel took this year off. He was fired at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Right, but
23.
Had the Patriots committed to Mayo before Vrabel became available?
No. I think Vrabel was all going to take this year off. Honestly, I think Vrabel was taking this year off in case Ryan Day fell on his face. Because I think Vrabel wants Ohio State. But now since with the winning national championship on my birthday, so he's not getting fired.
I thought Vrabel wanted Chicago.
I think Vrabel was their guy. That's what they wanted.
Yeah, the reason I say that, Scott, is what Kraft said in his release or whatever. He said, I put him in an untenable situation. Like the way he talked was like, I put him in, meaning like I was coaxed into putting this guy into a situation where I knew it wasn't going to be good for him. Right. Yeah. I think that was telling. And I think that was the way, if you dice that up, he was saying like, I didn't have the full faith in him to do this. And I was like, you know what, since Bill's endorsing him, he played here. I'm giving him a little bit of leeway. Yeah. But again, as week after week, I mean, these guys on, they're $1 billion franchises. They're like, bro, we got to win the game. Like, what's going on? But if you have to pick between Vrabel and Mayo, I'm picking the guy that's already been a head coach versus a guy who's trying to be a head coach. And again, it's what Kraft said. Kraft said he should have been given more time before getting this position. That was true. Like that's why I deduct my reasoning to being that he, I wasn't fully behind it. I was going to give him a shot to see how it works out. And what you said earlier, Scott, is like, hey, you know what? We might hit or miss here. It's a 50-50 shot in the dark.
Yeah.
But I don't think my point, my grander point was that if this was Julian Edelman, the fans would be more supportive of the coach, first year coach struggling this year, because the fans are centered around Boston.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And of course,
without getting
not
into
all
that,
Patriot fans, but you know what I mean. Like, it's Boston.
I know where you're getting at. And again, the other two coaches, I totally agree with what you said, Dave. Spot on. I think with Mayo, I pray to God he grenade the last game, because if he didn't, he went out there and did that, knowing that you're done here. If this goes off, you ruin everything and you set this franchise back another couple of years, you'll never get a coaching job, because the word's going to go out. Kraft is one of those powerful owners. The word's going out.
Like, it's like Joe Milton.
And the guy put up tape. The guy helped himself out.
I want to say he was the highest. He put for PFF. I think he was the highest graded quarterback. It was the highest graded quarterback game all year,
except for Drew Lock last week.
That's crazy.
Guy helped himself out.
Final game from week 18 to 2 games left. Second to last game. Chargers 34, Raiders 20. I just got one quick note on this one because I don't think it's immediately obvious. So I think the Chargers beating the Raiders combined with the Steelers losing to the Bengals is incredibly significant. First, it makes the Chargers the 5 seed, which means they play at Houston instead of at Baltimore.
Yep.
Which is a game. I mean, the Chargers actually favored in that game.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers are the only team that aren't Buffalo or Baltimore that can go to Kansas City and win. And so by being the 5 seed and going to Houston, if they win, they likely do go to Kansas City, which gives Kansas City a losable game in the divisional round. Whereas if the Chargers had to go to Baltimore and get destroyed, and they're playing either Houston or Pittsburgh in the second round, Kansas City has another bye into the conference championship game. So I think the Chargers having the chance to go to Kansas City lowers the chances of a Kansas City three-peat significantly.
I agree partially there, and I got taken off ramp. So depending on if this game is in sub-zero temperatures, we're still looking at an LA team or a California team coming to Kansas City in this time of year out there. But you're right as far as they're gettable, meaning the Chiefs can be got here if they play a ticky-tack bullshit game, because Harbaugh is going to push the gas, bro. He's gonna push the gas. He's gonna push the gas.
Brandon here with some numerology, basically.
Oh boy,
that's too much Ancient Aliens right there, even for me. No, I like that. So, the thing is that the Chargers are an LA team. This is true. They're an LA team coached by Jim Harbaugh. They don't care about the cold. They don't care about the conditions. They don't care about any of that. Like that's
the X factor. That's the X factor. Jim is going in to win that game. He's going in. He doesn't give a shit if it's the defending champions or the current champions or whatever. He's going to go win that game.
Right. Because conversely, the University of Michigan last year has to go to the Rose Bowl to play Alabama and then to a dome to play the pass-happy Washington Huskies. Doesn't matter. Sure, you'd rather play in the frigid cold up north, but who cares? We'll go play where the game is. Jim Harbaugh is not Brandon Staley, right? He's not one of these mentally weak Southern players who refuses to go north to play. The Chargers will be ready for that game. They're not the Dolphins. They will show up ready to go in that game. And I think they're one of the only teams that can win that game. For one, I think Jim's one of the only coaches that can match up with Andy Reid, with the Reid coming off a bye. I think Justin Herbert's the only quarterback down there that can match Mahomes. And I think that both teams are just really well coached. I mean, I think the Chiefs win. Don't get me wrong. I think the Chiefs would beat the Chargers, but the Steelers never would. The Texans never would.
Mahomes had a lot of rest, bro. I think it's upwards of 20 days that he's since he's last played. Somewhere about that. He's for a guy who's looking to nurse a couple of things. 20 days is a really good time period to get over whatever's going on with them.
if I'm a fan of the Chiefs, shout out to the homie Tony. If I'm a fan of the Chiefs, I really want Houston to beat the Chargers. Because Houston does not go to Kansas City and win.
No.
Zero chance. Zero chance. The Chiefs will be over by 13.5. Like, that game will be over by the third quarter. Rest everybody to get ready after Baltimore and Buffalo beat each other up the week before to come to Arrowhead. I think that the Chargers Houston game has a huge impact on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought the game was so important. And the final game, of course, Vikings 9, Lions 31. You know, it was really funny watching all the talking heads on TV all pick the Vikings all week long. Talking about the Vikings are going to win this game. Meanwhile, myself on the show last week, Scott offline, and many of other people who like actually watch the Lions were like, there's no, like, the Lions are going to win
this shit was over. This shit was over. I mean, Gibbs was like Al Bundy at Polk High. He was just like, yeah, give me the rock. Feed me the rock, bro.
Please. My note I wrote down here. Jahmyr Gibbs, 139 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, 31-1 through the air with the Polk High 4 TD game.
There you go.
Yeah, bro.
Gibbs ended up with 1,929 yards of total offense, 52 catches, and 20 touchdowns. As a 1A, 1B partnership with David Montgomery. It's remarkable.
That part. Scott, that part is insane.
It really is.
Committee.
Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry were not the overall running back ones in PPR fantasy scoring this year. Jahmyr Gibbs was.
Yep.
Like,
sharing time with David Montgomery.
Yes.
That's crazy work, bro. That was like how Denver back in the day was. That running back by committee, Orlando Scary and all those guys. Everyone got 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who they put in. Everyone got 1,000 yards.
It reminds me actually a lot of the Roger Craig, Tom Rathman 49er backfield.
Mm-hmm.
Except Gibbs and Montgomery are both better.
Yeah, I mean, is it
counterparts.
Kamara and Ingram kind of thing?
Lines are better.
They are.
Yeah. No, it'll. I mean, you got to go back to like Bo and Marcus Allen. Like, you got to go back to that.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, you got to go.
Better.
You got to go back to that. I think Christian Okoye, Barry Word.
Yeah, I think Gibbs and Marcus Allen could be a push, but David Montgomery ain't no Bo. So that's not a comparison. But yeah, during the game, some of my friends who follow the Lions but don't watch all that closely,
somewhat of a bouquet.
Yeah, they don't watch all that closely. They were like, "Oh, during the game, are you nervous? It's kind of close." I'm no. I literally was not nervous at any point during that game. I was like, at some point, the Lions are just gonna mollywop this team.
Yeah, I just don't think that. I mean,
I was let down. Schedule. I was looking for a fucking gunfight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were, but looking at what Minnesota played, looking at their schedule, they hadn't played anybody since week 8. They really hadn't, and certainly they hadn't played anybody on the road since week 8. So, I don't know that they were ready and prepared for the hostility of Ford Field and what the Lions were going to do. And yeah, I mean, it was a close game through a couple quarters, and it was frustrating at times. I don't think the Lions were super efficient offensively, but it's incredible what they did to Darnold defensively in that game. I mean,
that's without Hutch. That's without Hutch.
Ben makes a good point that anal zone made a really huge difference.
What did you just say?
The anal zone made a really huge difference.
Okay. That's what I thought you said. Yeah.
What's the guy's name?
It's supposed
Alex
to be Anzalone.
Oh, what did I say?
You said something else.
Jesus,
shout out to Wojo.
You're way off, bro.
Yeah, just a little. He did allow them to blitz from different levels, different places, and Darnold was seeing ghosts, and he had the happy feet going, and he just missed all over the place in that game. This is why Aaron Glenn deserves to be a head coach right now, for a variety of reasons. But the ability for him to game plan in 1 week and do that, what they did, missing as much as they're missing on defense, is incredible. It just is.
And then they lost Terry and Arnold during the game.
Yeah.
When the game was still close.
Yeah.
One I do want to make so Brandon's got a comment here. He says if the Texans don't beat the Chiefs, they won't the league make sure the Chiefs get another easy division W. So the thing is, I don't think the NFL really cares about who makes the Super Bowl or whatnot because they're going to get so many eyes and make so much money no matter what it is. I'm actually not.
It does matter who plays.
I mean, does it? I think are you Cleve? Is there any matchup where you're not watching the Super Bowl?
No, not with what's left right now. I mean, unless the Broncos make it, I don't want to see that. But
if the Broncos, if the Broncos make the Super Bowl, that means they beat Buffalo at Buffalo and they Kansas City, and probably Baltimore at Baltimore. Like at that point, it's an amazing
if
story.
They do that, if they do that, that's a movie.
But that's what they have to do. That's what I'm saying. This isn't like the NBA where like the fan bases of the teams drive the eyeballs. Everybody's going to watch the Super Bowl, right? If the league,
who it is, right? Yeah.
Right. I think if the league really wanted something, Kansas City versus Detroit would be awesome. The team going for the three-peat versus the lovable losers who've never even been there.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be
Yeah, I mean, either as Jacob says, either Chargers Lions, that would be dope, or Eagles Chiefs, the rematch.
Yeah, Eagles Chiefs rematch would be good. The
Baltimore, anybody.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is compelling no matter what, and Buffalo versus Detroit would be very interesting. Neither team has ever won the Super Bowl before. The Bills, of course, lost 4 in a row.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. If somehow the Steelers made it, you get Mike Tomlin, me losing my bet to Scott now because Mike Tomlin's in the Super Bowl again. If the Commanders make it, Jaden Daniels goes on this run, it's all, the league doesn't care. Like it's whoever, it's going to be compelling. People are going to watch it. People are going to talk about it. The NFL does not have an eyeball problem, so they really don't care who makes it and who doesn't. So, if this were the NBA or baseball, maybe, but the NFL doesn't care. They got everybody watching.
They're all set. But there are more compelling matchups than others.
But not by the Super Bowl. Like think of the least compelling matchup you could right now. What is it? Packers.
Steelers.
I think the Steelers on the AFC side for sure.
Okay, Steelers in the NFC side.
For
7-seed Packers.
Yeah, Tampa.
Okay, perfect.
Sure.
Oh my God! Yeah,
Steelers versus Tampa. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, this is the path for both of them. First, the Steelers go on the road and beat Baltimore for the second time this year. Then they go to Kansas City and they beat the 2-time defending champs. Then they go to Buffalo and beat the MVP. They're in the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay on the other side beats the Commanders in the first round, whatever. Then they go to the Eagles, who were there 2 times just 2 years ago, beat them. Then they go to Detroit, a place they won earlier this year, do it again. Detroit has 3 losses on the year. 2 are to the Bucks. Bucks, Steelers, compelling. Everybody's watching. Tomlin going for number 2. Baker, full redemption story. Todd Bowles doesn't have facial hair. Everybody's intrigued.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, you win.
I hope
you win.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, the NFL doesn't have this problem. It's compelling. That's why it's so good.
I mean, honestly though, Dave, it's a murderous row for most of those teams. You gotta, you gotta beat some really good fucking teams to get there.
That's why the NFL playoffs are so good, because whoever ends up winning the Super Bowl is deserving of winning it. There's no easy path to get there.
Yep,
true that.
Okay, so now we will preview the upcoming playoff slated games here. First game is Saturday at 4:30 p.m. The 5-seed Chargers at the 4-seed Texans. The Chargers are 3-point favorites. Over under is 42.5. The Chargers are favored on the road here, and I think that's fair. Houston has not looked right in a long time. Tank Dell just lost the leg, and Joe Mixon has really fallen off over the course of the year.
And CJ Stroud has not exactly been good this year. He's really, some of that is Nico Collins was out for 4 or 5 games. He is clearly wide receiver 1 there. Stephon Diggs has been out for a very long time. Their
The
offense
biggest-
just looks out of sorts.
The biggest issue is that PFF Bobby's going to be asking for his job back here pretty soon.
Yeah, PFF Bobby was a pretty coveted name a year ago. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So the NFL, it's just so much volatility, right? Last year, Stroud was the belle of the ball, and you upgrade, you give him Stephon Diggs, you give him Joe Mixon, and right, just a down year. Next year they could have an up year. Who knows?
They will have an up year because offensive coordinator next year won't keep running the ball on 1st and 10 every time. Like, I didn't know that PFF Bobby was Greek for Lloyd Carr, but like maybe he should learn and stop doing that. That could help. Cleve, who wins, Chargers or Texans?
Chargers.
Chargers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we're all pretty much in agreement there. Shout out to Jake and Liam.
Yep.
I do
Good
think
luck, fellas.
I think the Chargers
Good
make
luck,
it. The
guys.
Chargers will most likely then be going to Arrowhead in the divisional round.
Yeah.
Saturday, 8 p.m., 6-seed Steelers at 3-seed Ravens. Ravens favored by 9.5. Over under is 44. This is a divisional matchup, so these teams have played twice already this year. The first was in week 12, the Sunday before Thanksgiving. Cleve, do you remember what happened in that game? It was very funny.
gotta jog my memory.
The Steelers won 18-16 by kicking 6 field goals.
Yeah.
Hey, win is a win, right? Win is a win.
Yes. Now, week 16, the week of Christmas, the Ravens won easily. Baltimore 34-17. This Steelers team looks more like that. Now, the Steelers have really fallen off here towards the end of the year. They set out 4-2 with Justin Fields. They won like 4 in a row when Russ came in. But I think they've lost 4 in a row now coming into the playoffs. They're just limping in. And the Ravens are on a mission after last year. And I do think the Ravens actually even cover the 9.5.
I would take them to cover more than that. So it's interesting because both teams were in a similar place around week, say 12. And since then, the Steelers have fallen off. The Steelers, Wilson likes to throw the ball down the field outside the numbers, but they really haven't been doing that over the last X number, over, let's say, the last 4 games. Arthur Smith has sort of reared his ugly head, and they do what they do.
And it is an ugly head.
And they just there are things that they refuse to do, like throwing the ball into the middle of the field. They just won't do it. But that's the place to beat Baltimore. So in and around week 10, 11, 12 range, the Ravens moved Kyle Hamilton to free safety, benched Marcus Williams, and pretty much cut Eddie Jackson. And things just got a lot better for them defensively.
Mm-hmm.
They have Roquan Smith, who's their kind of move linebacker, but he can get exploited. And that's the area of the field where I think Pittsburgh should go to, but they don't do that. And the question then becomes is, will they self-scout themselves enough to recognize these are not things that we like to do, but this is how you beat Baltimore?
Will Arthur Smith self-scout himself?
Exactly. So I don't trust that the Steelers are really going to figure out how to – the Steelers could maximize their abilities in this game by spreading out the middle of the field horizontally, if that makes sense. You know, like make Roquan Smith flip his hips and target him repeatedly over and over, and then get some of that, just get good vibes going. On the reverse side of that is Derrick Henry. I don't know how you stop it. They're running lots of outside zone with him, but they're not doing it with option kind of plays with Lamar, where you would think they would be doing. You would think they would be doing it in a different way, but they're doing it under center or out of pistol, and they're just letting him run outside. And it's like, okay, well, you're giving Derrick Henry a ramp to get up to speed, and he's so fast that he's getting to these huge lanes that they create. I would expect him to rip off multiple big runs in this game. I would probably take the Ravens minus 14 plus and feel comfortable doing it in this game. I think they're going to wax Pittsburgh, but we'll talk next week when we don't, right?
Cleve, what do you think about these predictions? We both think that the Ravens are going to destroy Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, I would obviously I would want to say the same, but I just think that Tomlin, they're going to surprise us. Like I think you know how like Lamar has a game, or like how Josh had a game where they just like you're like, who the fuck is like, this is supposed to be an MVP campaign?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think
Lamar's
we
got
might
the
get
playoff.
surprised here.
He's got playoff
Yeah,
demons. He's got to exercise for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah. So my heart tells me, I mean, my head tells me that the Ravens will roll these guys, but I think Tomlin is actually probably coaching for his job at this point because of the collapses that they've had over the last few years, where he could probably actually be not let alone be fired, but they're going to be like, hey, voluntarily, we kind of want you to go, you know? But if he gets them to win this game, then he's a Hall of Fame first ballot walk-in. Because yeah, I mean, this is a David and Goliath, and I was, huh?
Did you just call Scott Goliath?
This is David and Goliath. Yeah. No, like, look, I'm picking Steelers here, knowing I should be picking the Ravens, but it just makes it very interesting because I'm gonna probably eat it cold as shit. Come the game.
Yeah,
so,
that's not gonna go very well for you there. Sunday, 1:00. 7-seed Broncos at the 2-seed Bills. Bills favored by 8.5. The Bills are favored by less against the Broncos than the Ravens are against the Steelers, Cleve. Over under 47. I only have one note on this game. The Broncos did a great job getting to the playoffs this year in such a tough division. Now they're going to die.
they're gonna.
You and I could probably offline put a little wager together, Dave. I think Denver gives them a fight. I really do. I think their defense keeps this game super, super close. I mean, I do. I am probably. We might need to check for a gas leak in the house or something, maybe, because I really do feel like Denver gives them fit.
I gotta use that. That's good. That's good stuff.
There's a gas leak. Yeah. But I do think that I think Denver has the potential to give Buffalo fits because of their defense, their defensive line, and just the things that they do well. I know it's a rookie quarterback, so you're asking a rookie quarterback to play in the playoffs, which is a tough thing to do. But you know, as long as he stays within himself and they play within that scheme, I think they could make this game tight. I'm not saying they win, but I don't think it's the route that a lot of people think. And again,
Jacob, come on, man.
Gas leak, man.
Jacob, I have nothing against the Chargers, bro. It's gotta be fun when one of us goes against the grain. Like it has to, you know. Like I said, my head said
I don't know if these two are the games to go against the grain. I can see the Broncos giving the Bills a game for the first half and into the third quarter, and then it ends up being like 31-13 Buffalo at the end.
Yeah, it could be like a 17-13 halftime, and everybody's, oh my God, I can't believe how good Denver's playing. Yeah, and then Josh Allen could run away with it.
And the Bills in this game, like it's one of those things where the Broncos match up too well in one spot. So the Broncos' best player is Patrick Surtain II, who should win Defensive Player of the Year this year.
Yeah.
And the Bills have no good receivers. He's completely wasted. Like he can't do anything.
That's a really good point.
Like I'm pretty sure I could hold Khalil Shakir to like 3 for 23. You know what I mean? So you have Surtain out there just completely shutting down all these scrubs, and it's like they need TJ Watt, but they don't have him. They have this great corner. They got nothing to do with him. He's going to watch Josh Allen throw it to the other people all day long.
They have a really good defensive line, though, and I think they're going to get after Josh Allen, and we'll see. You know, I mean, if Josh Allen wins this game with his legs, then you know, cool.
This is a 2-touchdown James Cook game.
Could be. Would you give me 14.5 in Denver?
14.5 when it's 8.5?
Yes.
No, I'll give you 8.5.
How about 10.5?
You want to buy 2 points off of me? Are you giving me odds, or you just want to do it straight? Just buy 2 points.
No, I wanted 14 points. That's all I wanted.
What? I look like a mark?
No.
I think I'm the one to score points off of, quite literally in this case.
We'll talk offline.
Scott, this could be like the casino moment when they bring the hammer and they just smash your hand. Shit.
We'll address this offline.
It's gonna be me and Don Rickles rolling in. Hey, Scott. Actually, Scott, the way things are going, that might be your role coming up here pretty soon. If you
Thought
shave
you
and
were
get
laying
more
it?
wrinkly, that could be you.
It's coming.
You're quite a bit funnier though.
No.
Sunday at 4:30 p.m. 7-seed Packers at 2-seed Eagles. This is a rematch of the Week 1 Brazil game, which the Eagles won 34-29.
Damn, I forgot about that.
Yeah, a lot of the Eagles fans I know around here are nervous about this game, but to me, the Packers are similar to the Steelers. They started off hot, won a couple games in Lake Willis, but they finished as the 7th seed. They just collapsed down the stretch. I think the Eagles are just going to finish them off here.
Yeah, I mean
it's, yeah.
Go ahead, Clev.
No. It's now that he brings in the Brazil game. It's equal footing, no pun intended. So we might see a different outcome. Because that was a significant part of the game. Jordan Love going out. I mean that hurt them. In that game. So yeah, we might see something else. And again, this is fatigue football now. Like this is the end of the line here. So
yeah, it's like
no one can be slapped.
Watson's out with the ACL tear, right? So he's out. I don't know how big of a deal that is, though. I mean, it's a big deal for their offense, but it's not like he's uber productive anyway, right? So I think I like Green Bay's defense, and I think they're quick and fast enough to handle. They're built to handle Barkley a little better than some other defenses are, but it's all going to be can Green Bay's can Green Bay's offense hang with Philly's offense, and what does Jalen Hurts looks like, because he has not looked. There's something weird.
There's something. They're hiding something, bro. Like it doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah, just the stuff between him and AJ Brown. And then the Nick Sirianni stuff is like the craziest shit ever. Like, wanting to fight with Philly fans and stuff like that. But it's still, Philly's a really good football team. They have a great offensive line. I think that could be a high scoring game.
Protocol yet?
I don't know what.
Has he cleared protocol?
Well, yeah, he practiced limited today, and they cut Ian Book. Paul let me know, so they cut the third quarterback. Hurts is going to play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, what does that offense look like? They've been down. They've been rolling with Tanner McKee the last couple of weeks, and can Green Bay's offense hang there? And I don't know. I mean, what version of Jordan Love are you getting? What does Jaden Reed do? He's done nothing for weeks. I don't know.
The Packers seem better than they are. Like, we like Jordan Love. We like Jaden Reed. Josh Jacobs had a good season. We like Tucker Kraft. They're not good, right? They're the 7th seed in the NFC. They aren't good. And the Eagles are. And the Eagles are going to handle them. Now, next week, when the Eagles catch the Bucs or the Commanders, which is the next game, now the Eagles, I think, have an actual opponent that could exploit some of their divisions. And that's the 8 p.m. game on Sunday. 6-seed Commanders at 3-seed Bucs. This is a rematch of a Week 1 game in Tampa. Clay, I'm sure you remember the Bucs won 37-20. But this is not the same Commanders team. And most importantly, this is not the same Jaden Daniels.
No.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, back then the Bucs had Chris Godwin, and they had other really good things going on. They don't have that right now.
Scott, without me telling you, what do you think the line in this game is?
Tampa's probably favored by 2.5.
By 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on a neutral field, pretty much an even matchup.
Yep.
Which is nuts, considering Washington has a rookie quarterback who's played at a very high level. He's been awesome this year. Who's been really good is Jalen McMillan for Tampa Bay.
Yep.
He's had a really good first year. Bucky Irving is, to me, the key. He's the key to the entire thing. If he gets running and gets rolling and gets them into multiple red zone opportunities, I think Tampa's okay there. But Washington's offense can be pretty dynamic.
My prediction for this game is that somebody will score 35 or more DraftKings points in a loss.
So, like, the Bucs could win a 38-31 game, but Terry McLaurin could score 3 times and go for 200 yards kind of thing?
Yes.
Or
Jaden Daniels runs 2 in.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a fantasy star from this game on the losing side.
Yeah.
Jacobs is it's all day with this guy.
Well,
Jake says,
hey,
speaking of neutral
playoffs,
fields,
man.
Vikings
He's
Rams
fired
are
up.
relocated to Arizona due to the LA fires that Clev started.
Trust me, man. I'm trying to start a fire in the fucking Meadowlands right
We
now.
can't be doing this.
Oh,
Jacob's just fired up because his team's in the playoffs for a while.
He
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
yeah.
He's
He's in rare
excited.
form.
Now, the question is, will they blow a 27-0 halftime lead like they did last time they were in the playoffs?
No, because Jim Harbaugh is not about that.
Nope.
I was going to say no because they're not going against Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, don't play that shit.
I don't think there's anything safer than a 27-0 Jim Harbaugh lead, to be honest. All right. And finally, Monday night, 8 p.m., 5th seed Vikings, LOL, at the 4-seed Rams. Minnesota is favored on the road by 1.5, over under 47.5. If this game gets moved to Arizona, the line move even more towards the Vikings because their fans will travel a lot better to Arizona.
Yeah.
This is a rematch of the Week 8 Thursday night game, which the Rams won 30-20. Cleve, you'll remember this when I jog your memory. This was the game right before the trade deadline, and there were rumors that Stafford was going to get traded to the Vikings.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
For Darnold, and like Cup was going to get traded, and there was just all this stuff all over the place, and they played each other.
Yeah.
Nobody knew if Puka was healthy. He comes back and plays last second, goes 6 for 107.
Yeah.
And the Rams like reignited their entire season in this game.
And it's ironic too, because in week 7, Minnesota lost to Detroit and then traveled to LA and lost to the Rams.
Yep.
Here we are again. Do you feel bad for Minnesota? I mean, Minnesota had a great season.
Do I feel bad for Minnesota? No.
Yeah. So there were a couple of things that stood out to me watching that game. Darnold looked. Do you remember when everybody's talking about him seeing ghosts a couple of years ago with the Jets?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Jets and Jags. Yeah.
He turned back into a pumpkin in that game. He was.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, his feet. He had happy feet going. He was wanting to get out of the pocket. The Lions blitzed him. I think the numbers are like 56% of his dropbacks. The Lions blitzed him in some way, shape, or form. And in those 56% of the blitzes, they got home like 24, a quarter of the time. So essentially on a quarter of his dropbacks, the blitz got home. And he refused to get his feet in the ground and just make throws. And that's why he missed a bunch. My guess is the Rams took note and are going to be doing similar things, and they can. Plus, they got a defensive line that the Lions don't have, and they'll get pressure that way too.
I agree with that. So my thought here is that this game looks good on paper, but I think the Vikings got exposed by the Lions and are kind of deflated after that game. I actually think the Rams are going to win in a blowout.
Would not surprise me.
Cleve, what are your thoughts on this game?
Same. I think we, like Scott said, they had a great season, and I think this is where it comes to an end. This is it.
And it's a bummer, but if you're a Vikings fan, you have to be excited to be moving on to JJ McCarthy.
Are they?
If they're not, they are. Again, it's NFL stuff, so sometimes
this is like Matt Flynn and like you get one flashing up.
This is a whole season for Darnold.
Yeah, it's not even a whole season; it's a whole career.
If the Titans offered their 6th overall pick to the Vikings for JJ McCarthy, should they not take it?
I would never take it. I would not take it. I mean, I know he hasn't played a game in the NFL yet. I like him so much in a variety of ways, but it's more the Vikings have done a bunch of stuff to clear cap space and be ready to hit the ground running with McCarthy. And I just can't see them abandoning all that to give Darnold a ton of money and he's going to get his money. He deserves it. He's going to get money. I'm not sure the Vikings are going to just abandon the plans that they had post-draft last year, especially with how good McCarthy looked in camp. and in that first preseason game to roll back with this. And I'm not saying
If they
Darnold had a
advance-
bad year, right? I mean, they're 14-3. That's a good team. He had a good year, but you're going to get a rookie with a rookie contract for 4 more years, and that's the window. And
Yeah.
to me, throwing that away to go with, and Dave, you mentioned it early. I mean, there's a little purgatory there with a guy like Sam Darnold. There's a ceiling. There's a known ceiling. You know what it is.
Yeah, it's 14 wins in a season. I think
But that's one. That's
No, but that's the but Dave's been
I got it.
Dave, but
It's true.
I agree with what he's saying. If and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. He's saying that, like, if it's win now, you gotta roll it in, right? And
But
I
if the
understand what you're saying.
Rams
I understand what
roll
you're
them-
saying. I understand what you're saying, Scott. I understand what you're saying because again, you make a good point about the rookie. Like you get him on the cheap, but we haven't seen it. We haven't seen anything yet. We haven't seen 14 wins. That's not nothing to sniff at. 14 wins.
That's a
in the
different
NFL,
story.
14 wins.
I think it's a different story if Darnold pushes them into the playoffs and they win some games. But we're
Yeah,
operating
if they
under the premise
advance.
that the Rams roll them this week. And
yeah.
and their
If
season's
it ends
over.
now, yeah.
so. There are two things going on here. I think JJ McCarthy has a chance to be a much better quarterback than Sam Darnold. It's probably 50-50 if he will be. It's tough to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Being the quarterback of the Vikings certainly helps. Kevin O'Connell is a good quarterback's coach. You got Justin Jefferson. He played 90% of your games in a dome. So that'll help a lot. The Vikings did say that they do trade with the Titans. They trade JJ to the Titans. They get the 6th overall pick. So they get the 6th overall pick. They also have Christian Darrisaw, their best offensive tackle, coming back next year.
Yeah.
So you add Darrisaw to this team. You add the 6th overall pick. Maybe from 6, you have to move up to 4 or something to get Travis Hunter. But you add Travis Hunter to this team, something like that with Darnold. I'm just not sure that's not better than just losing Darnold because you don't have the rights to him. You can't trade him.
Yeah.
So lose Darnold for nothing and move on to JJ or move JJ for something.
They'll get compensatory picks for him, but they're not going to get anything big.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah, no, I do.
I think I don't think they should really make this decision until they're on the clock. Honestly,
Well,
like until the Titans are on the clock and it's like, who's here? Do we want?
No, they gotta make the decision well before then because if they're moving away, they do, Dave, because
they can franchise tag them and then move them later.
Okay, but then the entire premise around having a ton of cap space, that means that cap space is unavailable, and the cap stuff, you got to spend the caps, you got to spend money before the draft. So this decision has to be made well in advance. They have to be clear-eyed on what they're going to do. And if they want to bolster this team and go get free agents to come there and play, they have to go to McCarthy. If they want to give Darnold his year or 4 years or whatever it is, so be it. But then you're throwing away all of the benefits of drafting a quarterback in round 1. You just are. And it's not like they didn't love him in the preseason. I understand what you're saying. I do. He had a great year. 14-3 is incredible. He had a phenomenal season.
It would just be if they had signed him to a 2-year deal and they could trade him. I'd feel so much better. You just trade him to the Raiders, trade him to the Rams, right? You trade him somewhere, you get something back for him. You probably get like 2 seconds or something for a starting quarterback like that, and then move on to JJ with that. It's just so hard for me to just let Sam Darnold win 14 games and walk out the door.
I agree.
I mean, but it helps.
Go ahead, Clev.
No, I'm sorry, Scott. It helps that you have Justin Jefferson and you get and the cast that he had around him. That actually matters because we've seen him play in Carolina and we've seen him play on the Jets. So it does matter the personnel. So this is why I agree with both of you to an extent. But Scott makes a compelling argument is that, it might not be all chips in with Darnold. He's going to get paid somewhere.
Yeah.
Some team's going to give him the money.
Yeah, and Dave,
back to the Jets.
If they could find a way to franchise him and trade him, sure. Or to sign him to, a contract that's palatable for somebody else and get something in return. But the benefit of it, of moving on from him is clearing all of that money. And is that is that worth getting
Dave,
playing hardball and getting a second and a third? I don't know.
It's a tough spot. It's a really tough spot.
Yeah,
Dave, what would you give him like as a fair and equitable? Like, what would you give him?
What Baker get? 4 years, 40 million a year.
Yeah, is that like what Danny Dimes got? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So whatever this year's equivalent of the Baker deal is.
See, I think he's going to get a contract way bigger than that because there's been so many contracts.
But from who? From who? The Raiders?
The Raiders, the Giants, the Rams, the Saints. No, the Saints have Derek Carr this year. They're locked into him money wise. So the Saints are
50 to 60 million. Like, wow, 50 to 60 million for Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
did I just put that in a sentence together?
Yeah, but I think that's the price. That's the market price for what?
Holy shit!
That's the point why JJ is so intriguing because he's nowhere near that. Plus, in that offense with Kevin O'Connell running the show, and Cleve, you just said it. It's Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and all that other stuff.
Personnel.
McCarthy is going to be a pretty dynamic quarterback there. You don't have to pony up the $60 million for Darnold.
Wow.
Real quick before we move on to our Super Bowl predictions here to close the show. Yes, $50 to $60 million per year is what it costs to start a quarterback in 2025. Kylian Mbappe, the soccer player, makes $150 million a year.
I wish I could kick a ball.
No, I want Juan Soto's contract.
Yeah.
I wish I could do anything.
Yeah, Paul makes a good point. The case for JJ is that it means that they should be able to afford Jefferson and Addison and not run into the Bengals problem.
That's what Scott was. That's what Scott was kind of alluding.
Yeah, this one things where like if it doesn't work out, whatever they choose, everybody's getting fired.
Yeah, but you can. I mean, I would hope that everybody would view this with good context. Like there is no great way forward. Nobody anticipated a 14-3 season from Darnold.
Yeah,
nobody did. He wasn't even named their starter, Cleve. He wasn't.
He came out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere, dude. Like he flashed in the pan, like out of nowhere to get 50-60 million out of nowhere. That's insane. But hey, the market is what the market
Super Bowl predictions. What order do we want to do this? Do we want to make our current Super Bowl predictions, or do we want to revisit our preseason predictions first?
Let's revisit.
Okay.
I want to see how fucked up that is.
Okay. So the good news is that two of us made legitimate picks. The other is Scott. So I said Ravens over Eagles.
Okay.
So I said the number 2 seeds in each or the 3 seed in the AFC, 2 seed in the NFC. I feel okay about that. Although I'm struggling with the Ravens now. I don't think I'm going to pick the Ravens now, but Ravens over Eagles. Scott said Cleve said Eagles over Chiefs.
Oh no.
2 year ago rematch, Cleve wins. Now Scott also had the Eagles in the Super Bowl. We all took the Eagles. Scott had the Eagles losing.
Yeah.
Cleve, who did Scott have beating the Eagles in the Super Bowl?
Are they out?
Yes.
Are they out?
They've probably been out since week 4.
Is it Chicago? No.
Chicago and the Eagles are the same conference.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're not going to say the Indianapolis Colts, are you?
I'm not.
Is it worse than that?
You don't remember?
Oh my God.
No, he didn't take the Jets. It's actually worse than that. He took the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, it's not worse than that. It's totally reasonable.
No, the Jets would be worse. The Jets would be worse. That would be worse. Like that is the bottom dragging like your sludge.
So Scott said the Dolphins over the Eagles. There are universes out there where the Dolphins win the Super Bowl this year. I'll give you that, Scott, but this was never going to be one of them.
Yeah. In hindsight, that was really bad. Again, gas leak, guys. I don't know.
But
was this before the concussion on tour?
Yeah.
Was this before the concussion? It must have been.
Them.
But now we're gonna make our predictions. Start of the playoffs. First, who's going to be in the Super Bowl? I will go first to give you guys a chance to think about it. In the preseason, neither Scott nor I wanted to say the Lions. We didn't want to jinx the Lions, knowing they could have a good season and all of that. But now I'm comfortably going to say the Lions will make the Super Bowl. And it's for two reasons. One, they're the best team. The second reason is that I think the Eagles will have a very difficult divisional round matchup, whether they catch the Bucks coming in there or somebody else. I just think they're going to have a very difficult matchup. If the Commanders beat the Bucks and Commanders go to Detroit, I think the Eagles have a tough game against the Rams or the Vikings or whoever.
Yeah.
I think that the Eagles will have a tough enough game to where they lose frequently enough. And I think only the Eagles can beat the Lions in Detroit. So since I think the Eagles have a decent chance to lose before that, it's just mathematically, and also they're the best team and they have the bye. I am taking the Lions out of the NFC. Out of the AFC, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. And it's for no other reason than they have the 2 seed. The Ravens have to go to Buffalo. If Buffalo had to go to the Ravens, I'd stick with the Ravens. But I think for the Ravens to go to Buffalo and then to Kansas City is a pretty tall ask for anybody. So I'm going to take Buffalo because they get to host the Ravens. I think they do go to Kansas City and get that win. So I think Bills versus Lions. Scott, who do you think is not the winner yet, just the matchup?
In another place, I picked the Lions in Baltimore, but I don't love that. Although I think you could see that, that could happen. I mean, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go Detroit and Baltimore.
So I actually think that makes sense for you because you think that you have at least think there's a chance the Broncos can beat the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a possibility that could happen. Yeah.
And that puts the Broncos going to Kansas City and somebody else then coming. It puts the Chargers going to Baltimore.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Baltimore does have to go to Buffalo. So since you think there's a chance that the Broncos could win, that makes more sense for you. I don't think the Broncos have a snowball's chance in hell. So to me, the Ravens are always having to go to Buffalo. So that makes more sense. So you say Ravens versus Lions. Cleve, what do you have?
I'm gonna stick with what I went with. It's just the preseason, which was the rematch from a couple years ago.
Sticking with it, Eagles Chiefs.
Eagles Chiefs, yeah. Because until Patty Mahomes is not playing football, I ain't gonna discount the guy. They don't win sexy, I get it, but you can't.
Yep.
They're defending world champions. The record is a little sketchy because you go back and how they won stretch of games, but again, until they're dethroned, you cannot not discount them. And the Eagles are playing good ball. So, and just for the sake of my co-host, I would love to see like the Lions make a Super Bowl, and better yet, win one. That would be great. But I'm gonna go with the Eagles and Chiefs.
And are you sticking with
Happy New Year, Cal? He's my boy Cal's on. He's a big Lions fan. First Lions fan I ever met in my life.
Shout out to Cal. One pride. Are you sticking with the Eagles to win, Cleve?
No, I just think that the Chiefs with the three-peat on the line. Well, three-peat possible. I think they're gonna find a way to win. Andy Reid and Mahomes will find a way to win.
Okay, Scott,
I don't see
Lions.
any other team. I don't see.
Yeah, I think the
don't say it to jinx it. Don't say it. We
I'm not saying it. I'm
what?
Just
not. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't say. I was like, don't say it, Dave. Don't say it either, because I would love to celebrate with you guys. Just don't say it.
I'm not going to say it because I actually already have Buffalo winning. I think that if we do get Bills Lions, it is going to be an incredible game. It's 51-49. I think those two teams are both really good. The best player on the field is Penei Sewell, but unfortunately he plays offensive line. The second best player on the field is Josh Allen, and he plays quarterback. And I think that
kind of matters.
The deciding factor. Like when you really just get down to it, and it's Josh Allen versus Jared Goff, it's very hard to sit here with a straight face and be like, I'm taking Jared Goff. You know what I mean? Not impossible.
I would take
the Lions
Jared
could win
Goff
this thing.
and the Lions offense over Josh Allen and the Bills offense all day.
There are no receivers that you can name a receiver on the Bills. Name me a guy, and it ain't Mike Coxlam.
Yeah, Joe Coxlam.
Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins.
Amari Cooper's 1,000 years old.
I know
there's a bad back.
They're limited there. So, yeah, I would take the Lions offense over the Bills offense all day long. But from a player-to-player thing, yeah, you want Josh Allen for sure.
I think this means Keon Cole was a bad draft pick because he did Mac Hollins first.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah. Give it a year.
Ben, a Lions fan. It's some people who think about good night, fellas. Happy birthday.
It is painful. It's awful to think about them getting there and losing. But
that's why I said don't say it. Just like we'll celebrate.
I don't want to
celebrate when they get there.
But the thing,
we know it.
The thing gives me solace about this is that if the Lions lose to the Bills, it will be another team winning for the first time. Like after the losing. Because each of them have horrible records. The Lions were 0-16. The Bills lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. These are both things that cannot be fully erased until you win one.
I would rather go 0-16 I'd rather go 0-16 than to use 4 straight, dude. That's brutal. 4 straight? You know how hard that is? That's never going to be
shitty.
Never going to happen again.
Was? How lifeless!
But you guys got.
Oh my god!
Dude, okay, so you would rather have lost 4 Super Bowls? Are you serious, bro?
Well, I've never lost 4 Super Bowls.
We can't know that. Our team's never been in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Like we honestly can't. Okay. We cannot. And the thing
I know what 0-16 was like, and the fallout for how bad that team was, and how many years they suffered because of how bad they were. I don't want to do that again.
I think that
straw poll. Oh my god, yo, you know what? You might be right because my team sucks, but I've never experienced that, and maybe there's a point to that. But I would rather, just on hindsight, look at going 0-16, getting like draft picks or whatever, versus going to 4 Super Bowls back to back to back. That's a college career for some people. Like that's going to college.
But they were doing
and losing all fucking 4
and drafting really shitty players in the first.
You want to know what it is though?
That's on the GM. That's on the GM, huh?
The Lions have never been to the Super Bowl, so I can't say it specifically for the Super Bowl, but I have experienced the Michigan losing far more than 4 in a row to Ohio State. And I for sure would rather go 0-16 than go through that again. I'd rather the Lions go 0-16 every, like, if you give me Lions 0-16 or Michigan loses Ohio State, Lions go 0-16. I want Michigan to beat Ohio State. So I don't.
Yeah, that is.
But again, having never been in the Super Bowl, I can't, like, I've never experienced losing the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
so I can't really speak to it yet.
But having your heart broken 4 times. Like, you guys went 0-16 one time. It was just one time. And I get it. It set the franchise back a couple of years. I get that. But to go to 4 Super Bowls.
I would rather have my heart broken 4 times than have a team rip your heart out of your chest and have it not exist anymore. Because that's what 0-16
Are you not a jet? I didn't go 0-16, but do you know what this is brutal this year? Like, I'm wearing this because a friend of mine's questioned my fandom. So I'm like, you know what? I got to show up with the hat on. But I'm like, bro, like,
the Jets have so much more going for them than the Lions did that 0-16 year. The Jets have good players. Breece Hall's a good player. Garrett Wilson's a good player.
The Lions have Calvin Johnson.
Yeah. And what else?
I'm
as a rookie. And what else?
It's all you need. It's all you need. What?
You get one.
Like,
you guys get one.
Bro. Who was their quarterback? Was it Orlovsky?
Was it Stoney Case?
Yeah. It was a couple of guys, but Danny O was in there for a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Danny O did a little bit of that.
I honestly cannot answer that question until I experienced losing the Super Bowl one time. But I have a feeling I'd rather lose 4 straight Super Bowls because you at least get the excitement of like being good and winning the games to get there and all that.
But
there's 0-16,
that would
there's
hurt
no
more.
happiness.
That would hurt more because
The
like
other thing,
you're going 0-16.
Sorry, I swear we're about to wrap this up because we just hit 9 o'clock. I swear we're about to wrap this up. But the other thing is that the year the Lions went 0-16, Michigan went 3-9.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, it's hard to separate the two. That's just the worst year of football ever. And thank God Obama won, or else it would have been like literally the worst year ever. So, but as far as like
I got to watch.
I would definitely rather lose 4 Super Bowls than have 0-16 and 3-9 Michigan in the same year again.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be nice. It'd be nice to get to a Super Bowl, Cleve. Right?
I get it. No, I get it. I just look at it like because I think I watched that. I don't know if you guys watched it. I watched the Bills. It's like a documentary on whatever night, like, and it just showed those guys, bro, like where Scott Norwood like doesn't even show up to like the reunions because he could have got them one. He could have got them one of them.
I can't imagine. Yeah,
it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah.
You guys cut Jamal Adams? I didn't know he's still in the league. You guys just cut Jamal Adams like a day or two ago. I didn't know he's still in the league. I was shocked.
Chris Spielman is interviewing for a GM job with, I think, the Jets.
Yeah.
Which is
that part.
Kind of bizarre. Is he qualified?
Rivera, but hey, we're looking to get Rex back. Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron? Are you kidding me? Nah.
Yeah, Spielman's interviewing for the Jets' vacant GM job. Wow. I got nothing more than wow.
Kel says 0-16 gave us Matt Stafford, gave us Jared Goff. Worked out very well. Scott Norwood wide right still rings in my ear. The thing is, it didn't work out well. The Lions were irrelevant from 2008 until 2022. The last half of 2022.
But that was
it took them 14 years to go from 0-16 to competitive, like really competitive.
Was Matt Millen the GM during the 0-16 run?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is last year.
Wow. Yeah, the curse of Matt Millen.
And then we got Martin Mayhew and good old Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia.
Yeah, it was bad for a while, but I'm going to end on this. I'm pretty sure I'd rather lose 4 straight Super Bowls than go 0-16. Reserve the right to change my mind if we lose the Super Bowl and I feel it, but
yeah,
I would have never thought you guys would have said that.
Well, we may change.
So then I'd never want to go 0-16.
We might change our tune in about a month, Steve. Through experience. We'll see.
Okay.
Now, Bills kicker wide right, Lions win. All right. All right. So that's political football for this week. Thank you for everybody in the chat for hanging out. Paul, Liam, Jake, Kel, Brandon was there earlier. That was all awesome. A really good show this week. We'll be back next week. Next Wednesday, we'll discuss the games that happened, preview the upcoming divisional round as well. Scott, final words.
I'm good.
Clev.
Good to join you guys again.
Yeah, it's been a long year, but this year didn't seem that long. But I know you guys have been burning it since the season ended last year. So I at least get an off season. You guys keep going, so you guys are killing it. So I really appreciate you guys keeping the show alive. The chat is awesome as usual, and I'm looking forward to some win and go home football this weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be great. Last thing, hook 'em. All right, see you next week.